Good evening. I'm your host, Modesty, and welcome to Celebrity Spotlight Live, where we take you beyond the lights, the cameras, and the action of celebrities, authors, actors, movie critics, writers, businessmen and women, and other noteworthy professionals. Tonight is part 3 and the last of our Boss Lady Tuesday interviews. And we are delighted to have as our guest for tonight Miss Kathy Parson. Kathy is a writer, she's a speaker, and she's also a Blog Talk Radio host. Welcome, Kathy. How are you doing this evening?
I am wonderful, Modesty. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. And if you need me to speak up a little louder, just let me know. I've been a bit under the weather, so but I can put a little more volume on this call if need be. Thank you so much, Kathy, for accepting our invitation. And we're going to get started with this interview. We're going to tap into all 3 aspects of who Kathy Parson is. And we'll start here with the writer. Tell us about Kathy Parson, the writer, and how long have you been a writer? How long has your journey been as a writer?
Wow. Well, it hasn't actually been that long as far as the book part of it is concerned. I've always written, and I'm a very detailed writer, very creative writer. But you know how you go through the whole parts of life where you're, discovering who you are. And so finally, I think it really hit me like in 2007. Let me back up. It was 2003. One day I was just sitting. At the time, I'm also a licensed esthetician and cosmetologist, and I was actually in the day spa, so very calming, very peaceful type of atmosphere. And I just received like 10 titles, like just within a matter of like 3 minutes. And so it was in 2007 that I knew my first book had to be written, and it was written basically actually from my quest in finding my own self-identity and really understanding the difference between authentic and camouflage self-esteem. So my first book was Do You See What I See? Seeing Yourself Through the Eyes of God.
That's a beautiful title, and it's great that you wrote about yourself. And sometimes, Kathy, we can be such doctors to other people who are in need of our help, but when it comes to us, it's like a totally different story. And it's not always easy to write about who we are, especially when we've, gone through some things, some very challenging things. It takes a lot of nerve. It takes a lot of guts. And also, I would say it's a mission.
Definitely.
You See What I See. That's a beautiful title. So
thank you.
It's pretty much like I would say about autobiography, you would say, pretty much.
Well, actually, it's like a self-help book. So I'm basically walking women through, based on my personal experiences, because, I'm only going to write about what I know about. And so I walk them through the entire process of building, guarding, and maintaining their self-esteem. And it's really an easy read. It has a study guide. And then my current book that I'm working on is called The Power-Filled Woman. She's No Ordinary Woman. And it's kind of a sequel to that, because first you have to know who you are to be able to even recognize the power that you have. So they kind of go hand in hand.
Hand in hand. That's excellent. Okay, so now tell us about Kathy Parson, the speaker.
Kathy Parson, the speaker. I am a talker. And one of the things about me is I live to motivate and inspire other people. That's just a gift that God had given me that I do with no effort. It is just who I am. And so I'm also licensed in ministry, so I have, spoken in church and did some teaching. However, when the seasons change and God begins to move you into another area, I knew that it goes to now empowerment conferences. So I speak at Women Empowerment Conference Forum.
Okay, that's phenomenal. Yeah. So your target, I would say, because that was one of my questions. Your target audience is it mainly women? It's everyone in general, pretty much. But your focus is like generally the woman. Am I correct, Kathy?
You are very correct, and that's just because I know that's where I'm called to. It's so personal. Now, mind you, I do speak to men. It just kind of depends on what platform I'm standing on, but the majority is women. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and the situation. And I tell you one thing, everyone, I've often said this in the past, everyone may not get an opportunity to go to one of Bishop Jakes' Woman Thou Art Loose conferences. But God has other men and women who he's using in their area to reach other men and women, because Bishop Jakes can't do it all alone, and some of the other great speakers, Joel Osteen, all of the great speakers, they can't do it by themselves. And that's where persons like yourself come in. And one thing you said, which I really do like, you said, I write about what I have experienced. And
absolutely.
That's good. Yeah. I'm sure you probably heard this common adage that says you don't have a testimony without a test. And
absolutely.
It's difficult to write about something that you don't know about, and you're trying to help someone. And experience is a great teacher. Experience is a really great teacher. So, okay, Kathy, lastly, tell us about Kathy Parson, the Blog Talk Radio host. I tell you, you have on so many hats here, and I'm sure you're wearing them all very, very, very well. But go ahead, Kathy.
I am doing my best, Modesty. I am doing my best. The Blog Talk Radio show is actually a lot of fun. I had initially planned to start this like 3 years ago. Obviously, it was not time yet. There were some other things that I had to experience and go through and endure, which I'm very glad, because timing is another thing that is very important. You always want to make sure that you are definitely on time with what it is that you have to do. And so I knew I was, hearing speak, and I'm like, okay, where am I doing this at? And so it was at that point I knew back in the early fall that it was time to do the blog show. So I just started, going back and gathering content and looking at previous content that I've had over the years. And then I realized, okay, now it's time, and it's time to deliver this content here. So that's how the blog show came about.
Excellent. That's wonderful. So you're pretty much an all-around person, and that's a blessing, because when you're doing several things, God can use you in there's no limitations, in other words. You're not just, okay, I'm Kathy the writer, I'm going to stay right here, I'm not going to do anything else, but you're the writer, you're the speaker, you're Kathy the stylist. Oh, my, you do hair, too. You're Kathy the blog talk host. So it's a wonderful thing that you're multifaceted. Now, you talked about the book that you're working on right now, The Powerful Woman. Now, what are some of the, I'm not going to say symptoms, but what are some of the telltale signs of a woman who is not empowered? And the reason I'm asking you that is because when people there's an incident in the scripture where Jesus was saying those who feel they don't need a physician, they're not going to search for help. Not verbatim, but a person who feels as though they know it all and they got it all going, they don't need anyone's help, they'll never get any help. But what are some of the signs that you look for that lets you know, okay, this person or this person needs to be an empowered woman?
Modesty, I can tell you the first thing that I usually recognize is in conversation. You can always tell by a person's words. Words are life, and the power of life and death, we know that is in the tongue. So the words that a woman speaks, that's the first thing, how she carries herself, just her whole mindset about life and her presentation. That there tells me a lot about, now mind you, the Bible shows it that women, the power we have, it can be used for good or for evil. But we know that the good is what prevails. Women, we are some very, very powerful creatures by nature. So the power that I like to really just focus on, and that, of course, that I motivate and inspire women on definitely is the good power, because it gives life. So it's very, I don't really want to use the word deep, but it is deep in a sense. It's simple to understand. Thank you.
Go ahead and use it.
Simple to understand, but right. when you really know, and this, it was kind of, I'm going to use scary for lack of a better word.
Okay.
When you really know the power that we have as women and every aspect of that power and how it is to be used for different people and people who have different roles in our lives, it will frighten you because of the mere fact that it is nothing that a woman can do in and of herself.
Yes.
Nothing she can do in and of herself. But it's very endearing. And I tell you, when I came to the knowledge of it, it really made me love being a woman even more. I'm a girly girl by nature, but knowing that power that we've been given, I'm so glad God made me a female.
Amen. Co-sign, pressing the invisible love it button 100 times for that. I am so glad that God made me a woman too. And you said something very, very important. You said in terms of powerful, we can take our power and we can utilize it for the good or for the bad. And I have said on many occasions to women that I have talked to, I said, and I'm keeping it very diplomatic and very tasteful, I said, you know what, women, do we really know how powerful the gift is that God has given us that lies below the waist? I said it has brought down homes, and I'm not saying that to brag about it. It has destroyed lives. It has broken up. It's people have lost their jobs over it. It's something else. So when you take the power that we have and don't abuse it or misuse it or use it for the right purpose, it usually ends up coming back to us also, Kathy. And sometimes it doesn't.
Right.
You know, I'm sure there have been times in your life when you felt you was giving like maybe 150% to someone.
Oh, wow.
A friend, be it a family, maybe, a relationship or something like that, and you got maybe 5 or 10% back. It happens. It happens all the time. But what you said is key. Using that power and not abusing it, because, honey, we can be a man, the best thing that could ever happen to a man, or we can be lethal.
Oh, most definitely. And, one of the things, Modesty, that I talk about in my book, and I use this illustration, is that I'm talking about mishandled power, because you have to be very careful with the power that you have, and when you really, really, and I don't like to use the word tap into it. I don't want to tap anything. I want to be submerged into it.
Yes.
But when you're submerged into the power that you have, you have to be careful who you give that power to. It's like putting a firearm in the hands of someone who's never shot a gun or never been trained to shoot a gun. Can you imagine the damage that can be done with that? So you have to be very careful. Now, I always say don't thumb it down. Don't thumb it down, but you have to know how to use it and who gets what in it. And then, like you just said, you may give and not receive back. And you have to know when, you just have to leave that situation, because you can't mishandle it. You work too hard for it. When you really come into the knowledge of it, you work too hard. And when you look back on things that we've experienced in our life, it was all to get us to that place of power. Why would you want to dismiss that?
Exactly, or lose it. Exactly.
Yeah. No. Yeah. So it's an awesome thing. It's awesome.
It's very awesome. And you said you're in the process of working on it. When will you be finished? Or
I am targeting a release date by the beginning of summer. That's my target.
Wonderful.
Yeah, that's my target. Trust the warfare has come. It has come. But I know that I'm working on something very powerful. You always know when you're working on something very powerful, because everything comes at you, but you just have to press your way through. So
exactly.
Yeah, that's my target. Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, definitely.
Now, what are some of the women that you've talked to and ministered to? What are some of the issues that they were dealing with that you became came much of a blessing to them, and some of the issues that they've been dealing with. Some women, have marital problems. Some women, they have problems with their children. Some women have problems, again, with themselves. But what are some of the things that you've encountered from the women that you have dealt with? Some women have been molested. That's another issue. That's another talk show all by itself. So what are some of the women that you've encountered?
Wow.
As a Blog Talk Radio host.
Lots and lots. I would say probably, if I had to pick two things that really stick out, that I really, really repeatedly over the years have talked to women about. One is the low self-esteem, the lack of confidence, which I always take them back to childhood, because a lot of times it's something that stems from the childhood. And then abusive relationships. So women that have, been in, domestic situations, verbal, physical, all of it to, of course, tear down and try to destroy their confidence. I would say those are the two key areas. And just, the heartbreaks in relationships. It all still affects the same way. It's to get that confidence, is to tear down, her knowledge of, hey, you are a very powerful being. So those are probably the two areas that I've, repeatedly, they just seem to always come up. So I don't want to call them specialty areas, but I mean, those are the strongest areas, that women get attacked in. Yeah. But I've heard some crazy stories, believe me.
I'm listening. I'm sure.
Yeah, I've heard and met all kinds of women. It would blow you away. It's really disheartening, some of the things, even in ministry, that you hear that women have went through or have endured. And I say a lot of it stemmed from the childhood. So, and it affects them. It affects them all through life. And so when they carry that into adulthood, that's a whole nother level of dysfunction.
And baggage. Yeah, that's like a Louis Vuitton bag. Yeah, Louis Vuitton bag. It's like a little pouch when you're in your teenage years, but the longer you hold it, the larger the bag becomes. And I would say the heavier the baggage is. And I learned from someone a few years back in ministry, and I've always used this because it helps me. And he said, when you're going someplace in life and you are purposed and you have your goals and you have your mission and, you know what it is that you want to do, he said, you have to tell people, I have a flight to catch. And the fact that I have a flight to catch, I cannot afford to carry anything that's going to make me pay anything extra.
That's right.
The heavier the bag is, when they weigh it, the more money you have to pay. Everything is not a carry-on, unfortunately,
Right,
so, your ministry and your book, it's going to be a blessing. I already know that it is. It's going to be a blessing. Have there been any challenges as a writer or as a speaker that you have met and you have, I would say, gained the victory over, or even used it as an experience to share with others? Any challenges as a writer that you've come up against, or as a speaker that you would like to share?
Yeah. Well, for one, you always have the challenge of, you have some. I mean, you have people that look and they view credentials differently. Some look at it of, do you have a degree in this?
That's
the best degree is experience, period. So when you get past, or when I got past the validation of people, it's like, you know what, I've walked through this, so I have all the credentials I need to make this thing happen. I'm writing. This is a gift. This was given to me. So, I mean, who's the greatest person to give the gift? So, do I need, you can study and get the license and the degrees and all that. That's fine and good. However, experience, again, that's the greatest degree that you can carry. And I would say the second thing for me is just coming against personal issues that may manifest in my own life, in my personal life while I'm doing it. I mean, when I think about the power-filled woman, she's an ordinary woman, working on that now. I have things that, come against me in my own life, but I always stop and I look at where I am in time and what is it that I got my hands on. And then I realize, okay, this is a distraction, or, this is an obstacle. This is something that is set up to, take your attention away from what you have your hands on. So I would say those are probably the two challenges that, I come up against as a writer. And I always find my way, back into position and then just begin to move, staying focused.
Right.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's big.
And staying focused is important. And sometimes the challenges, Kathy, they do make us stronger, and they make us last sometimes longer even. It's almost like being put into a fire. It's like, okay, it's time for me to get out. Then another challenge comes, like, got to throw you back in just a little while longer. And sometimes, it's the scripture says talks about things working out for the good to them that love the Lord. Sometimes it don't feel good while it's being worked out or when you're going through it, but it will come out in the end, being for your good. And it's important that you, as a woman who empowers others, you've come through these challenges and you've gotten over them, and you can share with others how to do this, how to do that, because I've gotten over this and that. And I don't know what it is, but sometimes, like you just said, the letters, I'm a doctor, or I'm an MDiv, or I'm this, or I'm that. Sometimes people do allow that to get into their way, and they start, they can use it against people too. Sometimes they can use it against you, and they can hold you back. It all depends. It really all depends on, the environment. That's why what you said in the beginning of our conversation is very important. Kathy, you know who you are. No one has to redefine Kathy Parson.
They better not. They better not. I say that, and I say that humbly, but I say that powerfully, Modesty, because here's the thing. I always say, I'm small in stature, but I'm an Amazon in spirit. And I can say that confidently. So when the enemy comes against me, I'm like, okay, I'm not going to back down. I've had to fight some serious battles in my life. I've had to fight fights that nobody knows about but God and myself. I'm not backing down. I'm not backing down because here's the thing. God has shown me the woman that I'm destined to become. Yes. I'm not even halfway there yet. But I'm not going to back down because I understand that what's in me is a threat to the enemy. And somebody's got to trailblaze.
That's right.
So I might as well trailblaze so that, you know what, the women that are coming up behind me and the women that are walking with me, that we can make this thing happen together.
That's right.
There's no way I will lay down and say, the devil was won. I can't do this. I can't do that. I want to see the other side. I've got a woman that I'm working to get to. I've got to get to her, and I'm not leaving this earth until I get to her.
That's right.
So the fight is on.
Come on. The fight
is on.
Yes, it is.
I've been fighting this long. I might as well keep going. He hasn't killed me yet.
That's right. That's right, and nothing is going to stop you now because you've made it through, and I'm sure you've gone through a lot. We all go through a lot, and sometimes, I feel, listen, I'm a woman, so I'm a little biased, and I'll say, you know what, women, we go through more than men. We go, you know how we get sometimes. Y'all don't go through what we go through. Y'all don't know what this, who says this about us, and all of that type of stuff.
Yeah.
But it's a blessing to be an empowered woman. There is nothing proudful about it. You're proud of yourself, but the kind of pride that you have as an empowered woman is a thank you kind of pride. Like, God, I thank you for making me who I am and what I am through everything that I've gone through. I didn't cave in, I didn't throw in the towel. And that's another question, and then we're just going to conclude. Has there ever been a time in your journey as a writer or speaker or blog host that Kathy wanted to maybe hang up her harp on the tree, so to speak, or throw in the towel? Was there ever a time you was faced with, giving up or quitting?
Yes, yeah. Actually, it was. It was, and it was during the transition of when I was mainly speaking in the pulpit, and and for a couple of years I did. I just kind of said, you know what, I'm not doing this. I'm just not going to do it. But that was a season where I had some things that I needed to be broken from, and I had some things that I needed to build back up and actually kind of really find out the truth. So I had to find my way. So it took a couple of years, but that was part of the process. I had to go through that.
Right. And because you went through and you've gotten through that now, and you can look back on it and say, well, God, I thank you for that. You know, there are lessons in almost everything. Sometimes people don't recognize it, and they have to go back over the test again, or they have to repeat the test or take it again. But it's nothing like passing, honey, the first time, okay? Because we don't have time to waste. We definitely don't have any time to waste. Well, Kathy,
not at all.
Before we go, I just want to say this, and I want to thank all of our listeners who have plugged in to the call tonight. Hold on one second, my dear.
Okay.